Hello, welcome to Flory Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Revell's rebox of the Fine Molds X-Wing in 1/48 scale. Now what we're going to do here is something a little bit different. Obviously going to look at this kit, but being it's a little bit older, we thought we'd make it a little bit interesting and we'll put it up against this guy. Now there's a couple of things we're going to talk about just before we get going on this. Obviously the Fine Molds one is many years old now versus the brand new Bandai and everything else. Now, you might be thinking, why hasn't Fine Molds just released their own? Unfortunately, it looks like that Fine Molds lost the licensing to be able to produce Star Wars stuff. So instead of it dying a death and they've been seen again, that they've actually done something quite clever and worked alongside with Revell because Revell has actually got the actual licensing for Star Wars in Europe sort of sector. So it's a little bit interesting how we're getting different branding and companies coming out, because obviously, as we know, and this is the trouble and why we've got it here, the Bandai one is very hard to find in Europe and the USA because it's got obviously the Star Wars licensing in the sort of Far East. Now the trouble with this is, from our point of view as modelers, it's terrible because it's not easy to get hold of certain kits and certain brands because of the areas you actually live in. Now I was lucky enough to get this one when it first came out last year and we fell in love with it. It's a beautiful kit, being the Bandai one. It's brand new, as we know. It's got some extremely good features on it, as in it's obviously got moving parts. It's got a mechanical wing fold system which is electric, which opens and closes. It's got a sound and a light system with it as well. And we know Bandai, legendary quality and the way you can do it without actually needing any glue, which is again a little bit of a plus. This kit on the other hand is a little bit older. It's been around a long time, but was the pinnacle right at the top there. If you wanted an X-Wing in 1/48 scale, this was the one you were going to go for. In fact, in any scale, as far as I'm concerned, this was always the definitive X-Wing. And I said, I have built a few of these. They're not without issues, but generally you're always going to come out with an X-Wing of high detail, good quality that goes along with it. But as I said, now we've got another one in town. Now the other drawback to this particular one as well is that it is £80, which is a hell of a lot of money for technically quite a small kit. Again, I'm thinking because it's got Star Wars on it and licensing, Revell will probably pay through the nose to get it, and they've obviously gone to Fine Molds as well to get the molds from them to be able to produce it and everything else like that, where Bandai have designed theirs in-house and obviously got the licensing with all of their range they're doing as well. And this is the kicker, both of them are £80. Okay, so this is it. You can go out and obviously buy online, just go like I do, eBay in Japan. You can pick up the X-Wing for £80, or you can actually buy this one in the UK for £80. All right, so what we're going to do is basically have a look obviously for this particular kit, because we haven't reviewed it before. Then we're going to have a closer look at some of the part differences we've actually got between the kits, and we're going to look at the detail. So if you are going to be going down this route, this is what you're actually going to get. And as you might know, for those who've done it before, this is the original Fine Molds box art as well, I do believe. I don't think they've even changed that as well, which in some ways is quite nice because it's kudos back to Fine Molds who actually brought this particular kit out. Running around it, as you can imagine, there isn't much on it. This is their standard top opening box, which at least is not a flip open one below. Okay, so your kit number for this one is 5091. Okay, it is cellophaned all together, so we will need a knife because I haven't been in here at all. So again, I wish that all Revell kits were quite frankly like this, because it just makes it easier to work with and storage. And I'm hoping this is going to come off pretty easy. Okay, got that guy down there as well. So as we can imagine, we've seen before many times, we've got that standard the plastic, the Fine Molds plastic. You say you've got separate bags all down in here, some screws, some poly caps, and then obviously we've got the parts themselves. But as always, we'll have a look down here in the actual instructions to see exactly what we've got. Okay, so Revell's usual pretty horrible instruction paper. A few pictures of actually, you can see now they're branding these as now the Master Series. Okay, so we've got some other their kits coming along in the future, but basically what they're saying is these aren't the snap tight kits, these aren't the children's kits, these are more the, you know, the medium to professional builder, but definitely you're paying a premium, so you'd expect that. So these are going to need glue, and they are going to take a little bit of work to get them together. Okay, so in the instructions you can see it's not that new way that Revell have been doing them, unfortunately. This is quite the old school way, but as you can see down in here we've actually got starting off with a Cockpit Tub. say not too detailed down in here, but you can obviously do your own bit. We've got the torpedo tubes being fitted onto the main fuselage. We've actually then got the choice if you want, so you can either do it with the actual the skid up or the undercarriage up or down. It is a separate way of doing it, so you're going to pop those two in. You've got your R2 unit being fitted in there, and then obviously a decal placement as it is required, and colour scheme. Then further down here, as you can see, more stuff going on to R2. Instrument panel, again, made up with all your decals. Then we've got that rear plate with the supercharger that is actually going to go down and in onto the top. Then you're going to be working on the actual foils themselves, putting all those together, all the parts down in there. And as you can see, there's quite a few little bits and pieces going down in here, some very nice bits of piping, end things and everything else like that. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Then you're going to be a mirror onto the other side, as you can imagine. Okay, and then we are straight over to the other side, and then usual things, we've got the engine, two halves going together, the engine's being put on the back, and then obviously being put in with the intakes. Okay, and then for all of them, over onto the other side, this is the main gear well. Always had some nice detail down in here as well, so that's always nice to see. And then the other parts of the engine's all going in. Again, it is depending, this is for gear open, okay, and deployed, this is for gear up, okay, and you've got a little poly cap as well, which is going to hold that into place, which, if I remember rightly, you used to be able to have this open or closed. I used to glue mine, if I'm honest, but theoretically I always used to think you didn't have to. Okay, then we got some more parts going in. So this is the rear mount, which is obviously going to then pin the wings together so you can have that X-wing or scissor fold as a working part. Okay, so it is a mechanical part on this and does work. Okay, a couple of screws is actually what holds it all together, which is a very nice touch because it makes it extremely secure. And then you've got the bottom plate, which mirrors the top one, which basically sandwiches it all together. Then it's a straightforward of actually screwing this down, which is the mechanical part is screwed to the actual underside, and then it comes up. And this is something I always enjoyed about this actual kit, is the way it was held together with screws. So if you wanted to, you could get back in there at a later date if you didn't want to do it. It is a natural panel line which runs around all of this, so it's not something that needs filling and taking care of. Okay, so you've got that in there, and the screws hopefully are still included in the kit. Okay, the actual laser cannons themselves on the actual the X-Wing system going on, very reminiscent as you're going to find actually on the Bandai one. They go together basically the same. Rear part being put in, a couple of panels being put in onto the sides. Pilot figure going down in there. Obviously you can pick which one you want to do, okay, and then he is going to be seated down in again. Now if I remember again, you don't actually have to glue that if you don't want to. All right, so that's that one in. Then you've actually got the gear being put in onto there. No problem with that at all as it fits in. And then you've actually got it down and being put in just like this. Then you can make a stand. So it's quite a complex little stand, which is quite a nice touch on this. But as I say, it enables this to actually move slightly. So you can have it in some little jaunty angles because it sort of slides and locks in, which is a very nice sort of bayonet fit to hold your X-Wing in place, or you can take it off the stand at any point. Then we've got obviously your color callouts, decal positions, and everything else running down on there. The only thing, as I always found on this particular kit, is there isn't any way you can have the cockpit open, which was always seen a little bit of a drawback. Now, decals themselves, as you can see down here, we've got a very nice decal sheet, and the beautiful thing about this one is it's weathered. Okay, so the thing is, being weathered, you're in a situation, as you can see down in here, that you've actually got the chips and scuffs and everything already into all the markings, which is a beautiful little touch on this, and it saves you being in that problem perhaps if you're not too sure about weathering your decals. These, as you can see, all over this are completely done, as well as you've got the canopy framing. Okay, so this is, if you don't want to do the canopy, you can just put the decal clean over the top, and you can do it just like that. Obviously these two being the sides, and then we've got the top. These spirals are obviously for the actual laser cannons, again for the actual wingtips. Those are where those are going to go, but you have got obviously R2 multiples of as well, which is quite nice in case you get it wrong or got any problems with those. So those go in, and you can see quite a nice little bit of decals. And then down on here, as you can see, we've got the instrument panel, okay, right the way through. So again, very nice decals. Nice to see that those haven't been scrimped on. Now, the kit itself, as we said, I can't remember actually when it came out now. It was a little bit ago, okay, but it was one of those kits where I think it's timeless. It's not going to be one of those things where you're going to be thinking, oh, well, look, you know, it's showing its age. The only thing that's a little bit off, as you can probably see down here straight away, is the actual way that the colouring of the plastic tends to be a little bit yellow. Now, our camera does little clever things with white balances and everything else like that to give you the best possible sort of look to this, but I have to say it does look a little bit sort of yellowy down looking like this. It hasn't got the sharpest, clean, crisp white plastic that perhaps we're used to with other manufacturers. But generally, as you'll see round on these kits, even though they're old, they are very good. We've got a nice level of detail, and don't forget, again, the detail is copying what was on the original. These were highly accurate. As I say, Lucasfilm, when they were doing these, they were obviously very particular on how their molds were going to be used, and various bits and pieces on this one. So when fine molds went out, and obviously in their design molds and everything else like that, they were checked, scrutinized okay by Lucas, and then were allowed out. So what you've got down here in some ways may look basic, but don't forget, so with the originals. Okay, so that's what it's mirroring. So as you can see, we've got the swirls into the position you see just down in here. So you've got the textures, all the lumps and bumps as you would expect. No problem with that at all, running right the way through. Little things like the end part, as you can see just down on here. As you can see, very nice details down in there, as we'd expect. We've got those plates that are going to go on the side of the fuselage. The seat, again, don't forget the original was basic. It's not that type of problem. Then we got down here, we've actually got the nose set. That's no problem with that down there at all. And then these two guys on here, this is how the actual mechanism all locks together and brings it all in. As you can see, you do have ejector pins, but they're all in areas which don't actually matter. So this is a bit down here, no problem at all. You'd expect to see ejector pins, but we don't. There is a few little minute ones, don't think there isn't any, but these guys, like this one here, it's going to be hidden by the actual engine, so you're not going to see it. So even back then, fine molds were well on the ball with this, of trying to hide your ejector pin marks. So generally, as you can see, no problem with this right the way over. It's very, very nicely done. Can't see any problems with it still to this day. And again, as I said, I built this kit, I can vouch for it. It is actually really, really nice. Right, so number two. So just down here, as you can imagine, we've actually got the cockpit area. So we have a little bit of a walk around. So over here, we've actually got the cockpit. As you can see, some very nice details down in there. We've got some boxes around the back, all the bits and pieces. The actual front wheel, or skid, I should say. This part's at the top. Again, if you're an aviation buff, you'll spot things like down here. I think this was from a P-51 Mustang supercharger. Okay, that's down in there, and various other aircraft parts that we use down in this. But again, some nice detail. This bit at the front here is actually R2. Okay, that's where your R2 unit's going to fit. This is with your doors closed for the front nose well. Some of the activator, this is what locks the X-wings into place. Then we've got the control stick, a couple of other small parts. The skid foot as well, as you can see, it's got some nice textures on there. And then these two plates on the end, this one and this one, is what the sandwich is to hold it all together. Running around the bottom, you can see this is R2, his legs, various bits and pieces down there. R2's body, again, very nicely moulded, no problem at all. R2's head. Okay, torpedo tubes, obviously going to go on the side of the fuselage, and then working down here, as you can see, you have got some nice details in the inside of the nose wheel bay, all right, as you work your way through, and on the inside, okay, and this is the nice thing with this kit, still some very nice details going down in there. Don't think this kit is a lemon by a long shot. The actual cockpit and the area itself, you can see you've got some details on the top, but generally very nice, very fine engraved panel lines right the way over this, as you can see, and on the bottom, this is where your screw's going to go up through the bottom here and here, and then covered with a plate. Okay, but you can see some very nice details in there. Okay, so if you are a bit more of a traditionalist with your molds and your various bits and pieces, then this may be more the kit for you rather than the Bandai one, all right? So I'm not discrediting this kit at all, don't get me wrong. And as I say, I can't knock this kit at all because I built it twice and absolutely loved every single second of it. Make sure we've got no parts in there. So down in here, we have both these sections. So again, when you're looking round, again, look past details because the details are as they should be, all right? But what we're looking at is some of the crispness in the moulding, which is very nice. So we've got these internal engines, as you can see down here. We turn it up the right way. We've actually got the laser cannons, no problem at all. And in some ways, these guys fit slightly better onto the wingtips than perhaps the Bandai one, in my opinion. Okay, and then various things. So you've got the laser cannons themselves. Again, maybe a little bit thick and heavy, but generally as they would be. And then we've obviously got gear. So this is main gear pad. Okay, and then we've got all the extra parts as we're working our way down here for the engine. The plates at the back, which again are very reminiscent of the way Bandai have done it, or copied, or whichever way you want to look at it. Inserts for the foils. Okay, so you also got your details, as you can imagine. They're hollowed out because they've also got more details showing going through. We've got the all-important engines, okay, so you've got the plating and then engines right the way through. Obviously these lovely, I think they were out of a Phantom if I remember rightly, engines down here at the back, okay, and all the different parts. You've got the turbine, inlet blades, all the different things as you can imagine on this. Again, one of the things which is always beautiful about this kit is the lack of flash. There's not much flash in here at all. If there's anything, it's just tends to be a little bit of wipe over, and it just shows the quality of these kits, because again, you get a little bit of burring with them, but flash wise hardly anything whatsoever, even after all these years. So again, very, very nice. And then into the other side, which is basically just your straightforward mirror from the other one, as you'd imagine the X-Wing, the way it works and everything else. So we've just got exactly the same just down in there, okay. Then you've obviously got this guy, which I don't think we really need to get out. It's just a stand for it. It's a generic one, but it's very nicely done. It has a flat area which holds your X-Wing. It sort of locks into it and holds it. There's no big screws or chunks you need to put a pole into. This one is a very nice technique because it actually fits on there. But again, you could liven this up. You could do other things with this, all right, and right the way through. And we've got the pilot figure, which to be honest is probably the only bit with a little bit of flash on it. We've got him just down there like that, so that's very nicely done. Also in the box, you're going to find these. So down here you've got a couple of polycaps which are going to hold things together, and these little M4 screws which are what actually screw the fuselage halves together. You've got two different sizes, slightly big ones doing that, and the smaller parts that actually do the X-Wing section. So that's down there just like that. And the all-important clear part. Okay. So again, it was always, I think this is probably the first time when I ever took notice of a clear canopy was building one of these, because I looked at it and thought, God, that is uber clear, and to this day it still stands up incredibly well. I know it's flat moulding, but still, as you can see, it is extremely clear. It's always a very nice part. The only thing, as we said, you can't have it in the open position. So if you are thinking about having the gear deployed and it's down actually on its own weight of gear, wheels, skids, you can't have that canopy open, where obviously the Bandai one you can. All right, so again, no, it's not so much a problem, I know, for most people, but if you did want to display it open, you don't really have an option. I have seen people cut this and do it in the open position, but it'd be one of those things where you don't want to ruin your clear part. But you can see, that is the closest clear part I've ever seen. So there we go. And as I said, for years and years and years, that would be the ultimate. You know, that would be what you're going to do. If somebody said to me, Phil, can you build an X-Wing? I would just go out and get this kit, and away we go. But unfortunately, something's happened, and that is Bandai have come along. This is their moving edition. Now, we do believe at some point in the future they're going to bring out a non-moving edition, which won't come with the lights and sounds. It's not going to come with the actual the motor that actually moves the X-Wings and all the bits and pieces. Okay, but I just thought it'd be interesting for comparison. We can have a look. Now, I will link the full review to this kit, because obviously we have reviewed it, we've looked at it, we've loved it. Steve on the site's actually built this one. He took it to the Nationals with us last year. We had it on display and everyone was doing the wing fold all day. Okay, but I just thought it'd be interesting to put as a side-by-side in case you can't get it. The first thing you notice with this thing is the way this is packaged. Totally different ball game, but don't forget we've got a lot of electronics in here and a lot of bits and pieces. So one of the areas we can straightforward have a look at would be the actual wings. Okay, so when you look at these bits of plastic as well, immediately they just look thicker, heavier, and slightly more detailed. But when we grab our parts here, as you will quickly see with this, the parts are roughly the same, because as I said, they're following very accurately how it is and all the rest of it. The other thing you have to notice, if you haven't seen the Bandai one, these little trench areas you can see coming out of here is because it is coloured already. So you can either paint it yourself or you can put the inserts in and you don't have to paint it. They've almost colour matched the whiteness that is correct. So when you see these two together like this, you can see they are a totally different colour. Okay, this is more of a yellow creamy white, where this is that sort of grey white, which is pretty much spot on. But again, it's something Bandai does extremely well. So when we're looking at these guys, I'm just trying to think of the best way to do it to try and marry this up. The thing is if we do something like this. Okay, so we're basically looking at the same thing, although it's reversed. All right, you might be able to see down here the texture is extremely fine on the Bandai one. You know, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick this up, or even if it's going to do it, but this sort of checker plate is absolutely spot on. On here, this is more like brickwork. So from that point of view, it's very nice. And then obviously when you're looking at some of these details, like just down in here on this point here, and then you look at the Bandai one, you can see it's a lot sharper, a lot nicer. There is some little bumps and lumps on this which are different to the Bandai one as well. Okay, so again, you have to sort of think about these, who's correct and who's wrong. The way the Bandai one works isn't like a cross, it is actually 4 wings that are mechanically operated. Again, when you look over here at the actual wingtip, this is the port for where the weapons fit goes on. You've got this lump here. This one here is not a rendition, is not as sharp as the original. Again, looking at some of the paneling detail, you can see that this one has it further in, this one has it further out. Okay, again, a lot of the panel lines, very difficult to see because I said it's slightly a different part, but just running around it, you might notice a few little differences on there. Okay, now the way, as I said, this all goes together, it's not fair to compare them because they are so far apart, as in, I don't know, what is it, 20 years apart, as in engineering and everything else. It's just that we're trying to get a feel for if you think it would be worth going out and buying the Bandai one or sticking with the Revell one. But again, various things. We've got down here the torpedo tubes on the Bandai one, which actually comes out very smooth, very sort of organically put in and everything else like that. Whereas these guys, although they're almost there, they're just a little bit sharp how these things actually come out. As I say, when you put them side by side comparison, you know, this one, I don't know, this one here seems to have a better tiering and a scoop. This one doesn't particularly have a nice scoop in there, and things like that. And obviously the big one is the fuselage section. So if I can find it. Okay, so again, it's sort of your 2-part fuselages and various things down here, but you can get a feel for it. I hope you'll be able to get a feel for it just down in here. So where you see this one coming along right down here, the way this one actually works, this one here, we have the step. Obviously here is where it plugs in if you want to have it on the stand, but again, looking down here, there isn't many differences. It's just that we've got more panel lines on the Bandai one, which I think is more accurate than we've actually got on the fine molds one. Okay, and again, the details, surface details, these are sharp, they're crisp. On these, they're a little bit softly molded as it makes its way through and everything else like that. And again, just looking at, hopefully you see on the side here, we've got a couple of little panel lines, very softly molded. The Bandai one, a lot sharper. They are the same, don't get me wrong. They're going to be identical sizes and everything else like this. This nose section, the way it tapers, don't take any notice because we've got parts that go on the side down here and everything else like that. So again, very nicely done. The other part I wanted to look at was going to be, if I can get this out. Always tricky when you're trying to review two, but it gives you an idea. This I think will be a good comparison because this is the kit one, okay, from the actual fine molds, and then this is the dark one, and we can sort of do a side-by-side comparison to see the differences. So actually, if I try and rotate it, it might be better so you can see it. But hopefully you can see the details are exactly the same. It's just that actually fine molds have got theirs pretty much spot on to everything that is. All the details are exactly the same, just that perhaps there is some little differences between the two. For instance, on the top of the supercharger, the way that the actual area is working up here, okay, we've got one coming in sort of 12 o'clock position and this one dog legs out, yet actually the Bandai one is reversed. It actually has the dog leg in it and coming straight out the 6 o'clock position. So that's quite interesting. But little things like these details just here on the sides are a lot more pronounced. The cabling around the outside is a lot sharper. This area down here on this guy, again, if you're looking on this one, is a lot sharper. And then some of the details just in here, there's more details actually on the Bandai one. And then with this grill section on the back, although it's all there, it's, again, the Bandai one's just a little bit sharper. It's got a few more veins in there and things like that. But again, I'm not discounting this kit. It's an older kit. This is brand new, state of the art, and it's Bandai, and let's face it, Bandai at the end of the day should be perfect in every way. Okay, so the other thing as well we just want to look at, there it is. This is, if we can find it, we've got the Cockpit Tub, as you can see, just down on here, versus the other one just here. Again, details pretty much the same in here by the time you put the boxes and everything in because it's a multi-coloured part, but you can see the various things there. This is the back of the headrest area. But the big difference is if you look here, the top of the cockpit on the actual instrument panel surface detail, very nice. until you look at it on the Bandai one. And the Bandai one is absolutely detailed to hell, right the way around it on the sides. There's no details on the side of this at all, but you've actually got recessed and raised details right the way over this front coaming. Okay, so that is the difference. The top of the fuselage, the way it works with the Bandai one is a little bit weird because of the way it all goes in. We've got it all down here, so we can't really do an apples for apples comparison with it, because quite frankly it's an apple and an orange and you can't see it. But this is what we're saying with this entire review. It's very harsh of me to get this kit out. The Bandai one, as we know, is very quickly turned into the industry leader for everything to do with Star Wars. They've got some of the best tooling, they've got some of obviously the best engineering out there, and they've come up with some incredible ways of putting a kit together, especially without using glue, and the way that they've colour matched the plastic. This here is a lot older kit. It's still a fantastic kit. My only problem is, and it is my big bugbear with this, is that Revell are having you pay £80 for this kit, where you can go and get the Bandai one with all the gloriousness and it moving for the same price. And that's delivered to the UK, people. Go and have a look on eBay. You can pick up the Bandai one for 80 quid delivered to the UK. So don't think then you've got 40 quid on top. Obviously, you might have customs charges and your various other, shipping costs that may be involved with doing the ones out of Japan. I know that, but I'm just simply saying, if you were to be doing it, then obviously just be mindful about there is something a little bit better, something a little bit nicer out there. The other thing as well is I was really hoping that the Master Series, we all knew they were coming, were going to be at a good price, because fine mold kits, again, you always paid a premium for them, but you didn't mind because it is the best out there. By putting Revell's name to it, I was hoping that these kits, to be honest, if somebody asked me how much it is, I thought it was going to be a $39.99 kit all day long, or a £40 kit. When I saw it and it was 80 quid, I was absolutely flabbergasted. My jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe that Revell were doing it, but they have having to pay to put that name on there. They are using somebody else's kit. They've obviously got big things in there. I'm just really disappointed that Revell have really put the price completely over the top. Okay, and we've got their other kits down here. We've got the TIE Fighter, we've got the Millennium Falcon, and again, they're incredibly expensive for what they are. So I'm sorry, at the end of the day, I can't give this kit a full recommendation when you can go out and get the Bandai one. And I will be honest, I loved this kit, don't get me wrong, and if it's the only X-Wing you can get, then by all means, it's a beautiful kit, but don't buy it. Save your money, buy the Bandai one, which is far better. It's light, sounds, motion, and I know once you've built it and you've done the lights and sounds 100 times, you'll probably never touch it again, but it does come with the kit and it's in there. You don't have to use it, but it's in the kit. They are also going to be bringing out a non-moving edition of it, which will be even cheaper. So it really will be, a bit of a thing. So although I love the kit, I can't recommend buying it. If you're going to go and do it, go and buy this one. The Bandai one is far better in every way. I can't see a reason why anybody would really buy this kit, which is really unfortunate, because I say, until last year when this kit came along, I'd be saying highly recommended and go and buy this kit. From a kit point of view and its age and everything else, it is perfect. There's no flash, there's no warping, there's no sink marks in it. The kit is beautiful. It's just that when there's something else you can buy which just gives you so much more and a better build experience and everything else like that, I can't give it highly recommended. But I can say it's a beautiful kit, and if you can't get hold of the Bandai one, then definitely by all means go and buy this one.